Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Brendan. That was very insightful. I promise I won't pick any of you to do any exercises in accounting, debits and credits, but I'll try and give you some information in relation to raising finance for SMEs. So first of all, title of my presentation, Sources of Finance and Tips for Raising Finance for SME Companies. And what I want to bring you through, I'll give you a brief introduction to my company. I'll give you just some general requirements for finance, why funding might be needed. You're all pretty aware of them. I'll give you an overview of finance and how it relates to risk, the security and the cost of that finance. And then I'll go into a bit more detail in that and then finally some tips. I'll try and get through that in 15 minutes. So very briefly, I've set up my own corporate finance practice. That's after years being, as Jim said, with other firms such as Lloyd and so on. I worked a lot in owner-managed businesses, and that's what I work with. So I work with owner-managed business SMEs, help them with all sorts of financial aspects, from acquisitions, from funding startups, to ultimate disposal of those companies. And I've done that for the last 20-25 years. So, getting straight into the presentation, why would I need finance? So there's a lot of different reasons why one might need finance. Working capital growth. So as we come through the tough years and we're now starting to grow again, there's a need there for finance. With more sales, you've got to buy more stock for those sales. That's called working capital. And again, that needs funding. And the biggest problem a lot of companies have is that once they start to grow, that's the most vulnerable time in trying to find finance to be able to grow, to buy the stock, to be able to sell it on and make a profit. So again, that's a time element, it's a working capital element, and again, there are solutions there for that. There's capital expenditure, so you want to expand your business, you want to put in some new equipment. Again, over the last tough years, there's a lot of equipment that's worn out, so I need to get new equipment. Again, how we get funding. Acquisitions, again, I'm seeing in the last 2 years, a lot of companies want to grow. With this whole Brexit thing, there's opportunities as well there. I was at a talk earlier on about Brexit, and I heard a lot of doom and gloom. But I believe there's a lot of opportunity there for Irish companies to go and grow, to go and acquire somebody in the UK even, and grow their business through that. So again, funding needed for that. Business restructure, again, this happened a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, where companies had to restructure their business if they weren't profitable, or they had funding issues or bank issues. They had to go back, make redundancies, new hires, change direction, whatever. The last one then, financial and banking restructure. Again, there's been a lot of that over the last number of years, where the owners may have had banking issues through investment in property or wherever else, and that has impacted on the business. And again, there's a requirement there to go in and refinance the whole lot in some way. And again, that's not a reason why one might want to live with capital. So there are some examples. And now what I want to do is just give you some idea of source of finance before we get into the detail. So what we have here on the vertical axis is the level of security. So you have low security and high security. On the horizontal, you have low cost and high cost. So what you'll see is that where you have the lower cost finance requires higher levels of security. And similarly, the higher cost finance typically have lower or no security. And what I mean by security there is your land and buildings, your plant and machinery, your stock, that's what or your debtors, that's what I mean by security. So I try to group them in sections. So for example, grants, it's an area of finance that a lot of companies forget about or don't think about. For me, it's the first port of call. Free money is probably a bad word, especially if there's any Enterprise Ireland people in the audience, I apologise, but there are availability of a lot of grants. Enterprise Ireland and other organisations are excellent at giving grants, and it's madness if companies don't go and try and source them, okay? The next group then is, and I go through these in more detail, the next group then is your traditional debt, your banks, your leasing, your invoice discounting, etc. So they will require quite a bit of security, but their costs are much lower than otherwise. And again, I'll go through that in more detail. The next step over, the green, they're your alternative or mezzanine debt. So then again, there's different sources there, crowdfunding, private debt funds, corporate venturing, and again, I'll go into those. They take less security, they usually rank behind the banks if they exist at all, and they cost quite a bit more. And the last one then is your equity. That's where you give away part of your business. Okay, you can skip on, I've just gone through that as well. So just to jump straight into the aid, again, as I said, I would encourage companies to go and look for grant aid where they can. So there's your local enterprise offices or LEOs, therefore startup situations. Again, important to go and talk to them and get some startup finance from them. You have your food academies. Enterprise Ireland is a great source of finance. They have a lot of money that they want to invest into Irish companies. There's a lot of criteria, a lot of hoops one has to go through, but again, with good help, you can get through those. And there's grants there such as market research, especially international grants, R&D grants, productivity grants, and even they go as far as equity, where they would put match funding going into a business, but again, you have to give away equity for that. And then BIM for the seafood sector. Traditional banks, your high street banks, and Olaf will bring you through some of that from Ulster Bank there later on. Typically, they lend to three times EBITDA or profits, and maybe up to 70% loan to value. Loan to value there is where your asset is worth 1,000, they'll give you 7% of that, typically. But again, it's important to point out that there's two elements to it. There's a security element, which you want at least 10% loan to value, and there's a cash flow element, which is your 3 times profit. So again, if the business is not profitable, it's difficult to get finance in this area. Your term there is typically can be variable from 5 up to 10 years. Your rates are 3.5% to 5%. Maybe difficult to secure. We've a lot less competition in the market now, so it might be difficult to secure. Your EII is a kind of a debt type finance, although it's an equity-based system. That's your old BES, where you get private investors to invest in. They get shares in your company, but you buy them out in 3 to 4 or 5 years. It's kind of there's elements there in respect to the maximum you can raise in any 1 year. A company can raise up to 2.5 million in 1 year, or 10 million over a number of years. They must hold to show the shares for 4 years. So it's not just individuals. There are actually 2 or 3 EII funds where you can actually go. So BDO have an EII fund where you actually go to them and present your project. But again, they typically are asset-backed projects. Okay. And we talked about working capital facilities. So working capital facilities would include invoice discounting. So invoice discounting is where you effectively sell your debtors to the firm. They give you between 70 and 80% of the value of those up front. So you have the cash up front. You don't have to wait 60 or 90 days for the finance. There's also invoice trading, where you actually sell each invoice one by one. And then the suppliers of those type of trades will be the traditional banks always do it. The other type of working capital then is your leasing. Again, leasing can be available with both for new finance as well as refinancing old equipment. Okay, so your mezzanine and alternative debt finance. This is the more expensive funding. Okay, this is where you have less security available, or where the company may not be as profitable as the banks would like to have it. So this is available from a number of sources. There's a thing called crowdfunding. We actually sell that debt, but it's only small amounts, maybe 50 to 100k. It is expensive, 12 to 80%. You have your private debt, so you have individuals who have cash funding or cash available. They're prepared to lend to companies, but again, they want some security, but again, it's expensive stuff. They would rank behind the traditional banks. There are debt funds out there, such as Origin Capital, Broadhaven, Plumtree from UK, BMS, who are funds who do the same thing. They actually lend to companies that have some cash flows or ability to make profits. And again, their security is probably less than what a traditional bank would have, but they are expensive. Again, 12 to 20%. Their terms are typically 3 to 5 years. And in corporate venturing is something that a lot of companies don't look at. You have to go and try and find a partner, maybe in the UK or the States, who are interested in your sector and maybe up the back. Okay. Equity is the last one. I just briefly go through these. Seed capital funds and venture capital funds. They're really for startup companies. The seed capital funds are for easing up to $500,000, a couple of those there which are listed, Inverse Equity, Kernel, etc. Very much technology-based rather than food-based. Venture capital funds are quite similar, but there are some food capital venture funds, or venture capital funds. But again, very much early stage companies, difficult to back to traditional food companies. The more likely ones, the most likely ones here are the development capital funds, and this is one that's very strong at the moment. There are quite a few funds that are around that want to invest 3 to 5 million, 2 to 5 million, and right up to 50 million. Directly funds such as Broadway Capital, BDO Development Capital, MML, Linecourt, etc. that want to get involved in family businesses, put in money to get it to grow, to do acquisitions and to grow it in exports, etc. What they also do, which is very interesting, is that they allow the owners to take some money off the table if that's what they want. So they would say, okay, let's say the company is worth 5 million, let the owner take $1 million off the table, we put another 3 million on top of that to invest in the company to grow it. So what that helps the owner do is that it allows you to take money off the table now and put it in the bank safe, but it also allows you to grow with that fund and have a second bite of the cherry to sell that company maybe 5 or 6 years time again once you've grown to the next level. So the last one then is your private angel investors. That's individuals, groups, and what's known as the 3Fs, which are family, friends, and foods. So there are people that you know around you who invest money into, and again, that's in a very difficult situation where companies are struggling. So they're the source of finance. Approach here is step approach. You need to understand your historical nature of your business. Go back 3 to 5 years, what's happened financially, what's happened to growth of your business. You then need to prepare a business plan for the next 5 years based on what you've learned in the last 3 years. And from that business plan, you need to develop a financial projections. Once you have that, then you can then develop a funding strategy. And what do I mean by funding strategy? Is that you've got to find out what the quantum funding you need, the time you have when that funding is needed, what's it needed for. So it's capital, you might go to traditional bank, or you might go to leasing. If you have debtors there and it's working capital you need, then you might go to invoice discounting. So again, you try to match what you have. What I try and do is try to match the funding by maximizing the lowest cost. And remember the graph I had, so I would start off with grants. I would then say, what grants can I get? Okay, maximize that. Then can I get any bank debt? If not, what can I do with working capital or leasing? After that, I go to mezzanine finance, and last I would go to his equity, because equity is giving away some of what you own yourself, okay? And then once you have your finance strategy, you approach the funders, and you try to execute and do due diligence. Last slide, other considerations that you need to look at. Your equity valuation in your business, if we're looking at giving away equity or selling equity. Your equity dilution is a very motivated or important issue for an owner manager to understand. And what I find is there's a big resistance to that. A lot of owner managers, they own 100%, say, okay, well, I'm not giving away too much. But I try to remind those people, like owning 60% of something big is better than owning 100% of nothing, okay? So it's important to be constructed in that manner. Board involvement, especially with private funds, they will want board involvement. That means you're not your own boss anymore. You might have to take in outsiders who will add value to you, no doubt, in your growth, but just means changing habits. And also remember that you've got to look at the investment horizon. If there's a fund coming in for equity, they have an investment horizon, they want to exit out in 3 to 5 years, or 5 to 7 years, or whatever. I think that's it. Any questions?